Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's MediaWorks Masterclass. For those who don't know, my name's David Norris. I'm the Chief Operating Officer here at MediaWorks, and I'm the host of the MediaWorks Masterclass. And today I've got James with me.
Yeah, hi guys, I'm James. I'm a paid media director here at MediaWorks. So it's quite a paid focus section, but it's quite interesting in terms of what we're covering for the future.
Absolutely. So today we're going to look at, again, I can't believe this might be a record, AI as the first point on a single slide, right? We've talked about AI probably in every masterclass for the last 18 months in some capacity. But today there is going to be a real focus on AI, automation, and paid media. And we're going to look at sort of protecting ROI when platforms take control. I think sort of this is on the back of Google Marketing Live, some of the updates they've been talking about. Obviously, a massive part of that was how AI is taking more of a prominent role in pretty much all of Google's sort of search landscape, what it's going to be, both organic and paid. Today we're focusing on the paid element of that. But I think we're going to look at some of the challenges that can pose if you don't think and you don't set up for success in this area. So really looking forward to this one. And again, we've got a bit of audience participation as we go through. So again, do get involved. So what we're going to cover today, I think big focus for us is going to be Google's 17th of August smart bidding update and other 2026 updates and what they mean ultimately for campaigns. And I guess why that set and forget stops working. Now, just for reference, like we've never advocated sort of set and forget. But I do think there is an element where Google have been pushing a lot of that to say, right, set up campaign for success, then let the platforms do a lot of the heavy lifting and a lot of the work. We're going to talk about some of the challenges that will occur as a result of that and what you actually need to be thinking about. I guess we're going to talk about what still matters. So this isn't like revolutionary, this is evolutionary. I think it's fair to say, James, when we've been talking about this, what we're seeing this as the next step in a journey that has been actually ongoing for some time, not a seismic shift in what we're seeing out there, but it's worthwhile highlighting sort of the commercial fundamentals, data quality, value-based bidding, and clear margin targets, and definitely how you determine whether automation is going to help or hurt you, like what are your parameters, how you're actually monitoring that. And then ultimately, we're going to give advice on how to protect ROI as automation increases. Like for obvious reasons, like automation promises so much and there is such a buzz around everything sort of AI and automation right now. But we also want to talk about sort of how do you make sure you protect that in a world where you might be trying to cede or the platforms are encouraging you to cede some of that control. So I think for us, like it's all about practical advice. We're going to give advice on what we think you should be checking, what to change and what to be ready for and how to be ready for it ultimately. So, James, what is changing?
So we're framing this around this new smart bidding update. 17th of August it rolls out, and while it is quite technical in the specifics, it's basically just a change in how Google is going to treat your target CPA and your target ROAS campaigns. So most of us these days are using target-based, target-focused conversion campaigns to deliver results. This will mean that any of you running those campaigns probably just want to have a little sense check on those campaigns, because we do need to see, because we are expecting to see a little bit of a shift in terms of how those perform and the results that they drive. So basically, to explain it, if we look at the next slide, this is going to affect sort of all of your Google inventory campaigns, anything that can run a target CPA. And what in the past, like campaigns could be limited by budget in a target CPA campaign and achieve a CPA that sat below the target level that you'd sort of identified. The example there is like if your current target's £10, you might be able to drive a £5 CPA from that campaign, and it would sort of sit there. The old algorithm was based on a much more conservative approach. It was focused on like it would only go for really search terms and search queries that had conversion signals behind it.
Yeah.
And it would try and ensure that it hits a CPA below that target. What Google's changing is it's making it, and it's in line with some of the other changes that we might touch on in terms of search exploration, is it's really expanding the scope of what that campaign can do. And that means that it's going to be a bit more aggressive on the types of terms that it can target, and will start spending to the budget limit and effectively increase your CPA costs. So you're going to, because it's going to go for things that maybe aren't as dead certs for hitting a target under that. So you're going to get less efficiency out of some of your campaigns. That means that campaigns that previously performed below a target CPA are now likely to perform sort of at the level of a target CPA. It's a more aggressive bidding strategy. The reason Google is doing it is they want more data, because data is king for AI. It means that there's going to be more expansive, more testing of new search queries, and more like a more open inventory there. But for us as advertisers, it does mean that if we just leave our campaigns on the current CPAs, there is a chance that we will artificially inflate our cost.
And I guess this is part of, I know you and I have talked lots and lots about this over probably the last 3 or 4 years. There's been a movement, hasn't there, from all of the platforms to talk about themselves as full funnel solutions, how it's all about their channel can ultimately deliver across the funnel. And I think as an agency, we've always been lent into that, but have been sort of very sort of customer first, understanding where each aspect works within the funnel, not necessarily here saying Google's going to be the full funnel solution across everything. It's about us looking more across what can Meta do, what can LinkedIn do, how does display work against that, how does your SEO impact all, like we've been looking at the wider piece. But all of the platforms have really had I would say quite an aggressive agenda over sort of the last 2 or 3 years, saying we are full funnel solutions, you know, whether we were awareness in Instagram and now we're looking at in-platform leads also appearing, or like, you know, conversion goals obviously appearing more aggressively in Instagram now. It's like that's been part of the play that we're seeing out of all of the platforms. So I think that then you lay this on, and I think what we're trying to say, and I think sort of you and I have had a conversation about this separately, James, anyways, is about like, there is a fight for the advertising spend taking place across these big organizations. And for them, it's all about, yes, say there's 100% of the marketing budget that is being spent by a particular client. It's how much share of wallet can they actually take and keep within their platform?
Yeah, 100%. I think it stems from the fact that like advertisers are fickle to a degree in terms of like, you'll go where the best performance is. If Meta is driving a much stronger ROI than Google, you invest more in Meta.
Yeah.
And because their campaigns, like everything is AI based and generated these days, it means that more spend, like getting the most effective AI, the best performing AI, which requires the most data to go through it, will mean that more advertisers skew in that channel direction. So, and that links in with the full funnel piece, because everyone's trying to look across the funnel beyond the last conversion action. How do I influence people earlier in the journey and keep them in channel and platform and drive them all the way through? But all of that requires AIs which are effective and have a lot of data behind it. So a lot of the efficiency changes that you're seeing are to promote Google or Meta getting more data. And what that means for us as advertisers is we are losing a little bit of some of the safety nets on efficiency, and it is more about like active like target and goal, and that's where they're working towards. So it's one of those where, I mean, also like this is a change that like links into one that we saw in maybe March of this year, where they changed the way that budgeting worked on the platform. So you previously had a daily budget, and if you had any form of ad scheduling that would turn it off on a weekend, for example, you would only ever spend the days that like the budget that you would have spent for the days that the campaign was active. Well, Google flipped that and was now like, no, if your daily budget is this over a 7-day period, we will try and spend 7 times that.
Yeah.
So it starts to make it more aggressive in its spending technique. That means that like they get more data, they get more insight, their algorithm is fed, hopefully it improves, but it does mean that some of these decisions aren't necessarily in the best interest of the individual advertiser themselves.
Yeah, and I often think if budgets were unlimited, this would be utopia, right? Like, wouldn't it be the perfect world to live in if you didn't have to worry about budgets? But like, show me a client and show me an advertiser who doesn't have budget, you know? And I think that for me is one of the big things that we often have conversations with sort of our Google reps and people like that, similar nature or the other platforms as well about, because I do think there is a lot going on in this space, and it is about how do we utilize the tools, the techniques, the best practice that's out there, whilst also making sure we align with those commercial objectives and commercial goals. I guess for us to quickly cover this, James, around sort of this is part of a bigger change from Google. Like we're talking about here for the changes that landed alongside this in 2026.
Yeah, so AI Max, I'm sure everyone's aware of it. Now it's been sort of last 18 months, maybe slightly longer, and been on the agenda. It's now sort of a fully fledged tool. It's out of its beta phases. It is about like more expansive query capture and broadening the scope of what your campaigns can do, ceding a lot more control. But it is out of that sort of test and learn phase, and it is sort of, in Google's eyes, delivering results. And you do have to test all of these things for your own market and your own data. But yeah, that change is happening. Smart bidding exploration is sort of what I talked about there. It's about like, instead of being very target signal focused, it's about letting the platform find queries that maybe don't have such strong signals and start testing and experimenting with those. So that is expanding into sort of the shopping and the search coverage. That, I know we don't get to see our full search terms reports anymore, but the expectation would be you're going to start appearing for more like terms that are further away from what you're
less strong, I would say, search terms.
Less strong, less high intent search terms. The goal is that will those will provide more signals and that will improve performance, but it is something just to be aware of. Journey aware bidding is actually quite exciting in a sense that this is about full customer journeys, not just focusing on one conversion action at the bottom, like your final form fill that is it's your end goal lead. It's thinking about, okay, how do I consider, and the platform is now thinking, how do I consider the PDF downloads that happened before that, the email clicks, the video views, the time on site, any other conversion action that you have on site, and what does that full customer journey look like, and how can it influence all of that journey to drive more of the end goal? So this is, I think, the direction of travel that when we were touching on at the start, where everyone wants to be more full funnel. This is the thing that is sort of driving that. So journey aware bidding is trying to factor more stages of that user journey into your campaign performance. So I think that one might be a big one for the future. And then one for us as advertisers is the sort of agentic advisors and that sort of thing. And they are getting quite good. I mean, like the Meta one, I don't know if is actually like, it's a very good system diagnoser. It will give you can ask it questions. It'll tell you like, no, actually, I think that maybe this is the problem. Particularly good for diagnosing like errors or why is something not serving properly or that sort of thing. But the more these develop, the more likely we're going to get sort of sector-specific ones. There's already on the roadmap stuff where we can add in business data, and one of the other sort of things that they talked about at sort of Google Marketing Live is creating sort of extra business parameters. So you can educate some of the platforms saying like we only want like, you can just provide more data and context to things. So be like, if it's like we only are focused on B2B customers, so anything outside of that, you're just getting more opportunity to sort of add stuff in there. So there's a lot more automation in what's coming. Yeah,
and there's been loads of changes. I mean, the statistic there, over 100 plus major updates to Google AI Creative and Reporting since 2025. It's not going to slow down, I don't think. There's so much going on. I guess we've talked about this before, audience participation. Like, I guess for us, I would like to know from the people there, if you just literally scan what's on the screen right now in front of you with your smartphone, you just enter in the Menti. And I guess for me, I want to see sort of how much do you trust the AI automation to make the right decisions with your paid media budget. I can see lots and lots of respondents coming in there. Don't fully trust it, but keep checking. Fully trust it, don't trust it at all is 0. So again, what I would say is I think that's changed from where we've been previously. If we did this 12 months ago, trust me, there was a lot of people who were like, don't trust it at all, don't like AI, don't want to use AI. So it's really interesting to see that people don't fully trust it. It's sort of in there as the most popular option. We can see that changing in front of us.
Yeah, I think it's like it's probably where we're at as well. It's like there's elements where it works, but you always have to have your own input and your own testing and your own don't trust it blindly is maybe where I'd say, like, you can trust it a little bit, but you want to make sure that you're monitoring it.
Yeah, be positively skeptical is potentially the term I would use. And I think, look, again, I think we will see sort of us come down as well on that sliding scale, because as it is getting better, we are seeing so many benefits and the results are getting better. I think that the problem is because we keep changing the goalposts all of the time and the technology keeps adjusting, and then you become a bit skeptical saying, well, what are we trying to achieve? And look, in the next few slides, we're going to touch on some of the reasons why you might want to think about sort of the level of trust. And I think part of that definitely is driven by some of the changes that we are seeing. So thank you very much for everybody who's contributed to that. That's really useful insight, much appreciated. And I guess here, like, this is a mad statistic. Like, there was stats in globally. I think one of our partners, Lunio, is talking about 63 billion wasted on invalid traffic in 2025. So when they've looked globally across advertising spend, like 63 billion wasted on invalid traffic is just an incredible number. And I guess, James, that then comes from sort of this invalid traffic area by campaign type that feeds into this.
Yeah, there's two elements to it. I suppose the invalid traffic themselves, as AI gets better, like, it is better at like skirting some of the systems that sort of try to avoid invalid traffic before. The bots are getting smarter is sort of what we might say there. But there is an element of, like, as campaigns go broader and you start looking at widening that network into sort of search partners and sort of Google video partners, you might have seen, like, if you've got a lot of search partner conversions in the past, like, the quality might be quite low there. It's because these broader environments, like, have less sort of targeting credentials, and it is much easier for because the platform is always looking for more conversions, more efficiencies, more intent signals. It is always going to skew into capturing some invalid traffic there. So it's on your pure search campaigns, which we're being pushed away from. There's much less invalid traffic, but as we enable some of these broader features, allow the platform to go broader and to cover more things, we are seeing a rise in sort of the coverage and the invalid traffic that you might capture through some of your campaigns.
And I think that's highlighted on the right-hand side, isn't it, where we're talking about plus 35% where AI Max has been activated. I think, again, that as a campaign type is about sort of multi-platform. Do you know what I mean? Or multi, what's the word I would use? Inventory type. Do you know what I mean? And I think that therefore it allows us to think about, well, where is it getting those sort of data points from? I would also say, by the way, this is global. So we do see massive skews in different markets, by the way, on this. When we run internationally, we see some markets that are massively restricted. We see other global markets where, to be honest, invalid traffic is a real challenge and a real issue. So again, food for thought, something to think about, but it's just one, in my opinion, to just keep an eye on.
Yeah. The one thing I'd say is, like, while invalid traffic sounds scary in itself, like ultimately, if you're measuring your campaigns on a performance metric, the goal is, like, your conversion quality. Like, you could get 20% invalid traffic, but if you're driving valid efficient
Conversion.
conversions,
Yeah.
it isn't that big a deal. Performance first when we're thinking about these sort of things, but it is a sort of symptom of the changing times and algorithms and where we're at.
So in the last 10 minutes of the session, James, I want us to cover sort of quickly what still matters, and then we're going to go on and talk about sort of best practice advice and guidance. So I guess what still matters, we're talking about 3 core pillars, aren't we? So data and signal quality, you've touched on it, but I think it's worth definitely to go into a little more depth.
As with any platform, and we've said for years now, the quality of your data and the signal strength that you're providing these platforms is what will guide the algorithm, the AI performance models, and all of the future changes. So it's things like enhanced conversion tracking, server-side tracking, conversion API on Meta. If we don't have those data foundations in place, we're not going to be able to capitalize on the advancements.
And then we've got value-based bidding, which is, I wouldn't say similar to that, but sits somewhere in between the two, actually, around data and signal quality and commercial objectives. Like value-based bidding is really about bidding where you are seeing the most value.
Yeah. It's almost like, I mean, it is the middle ground. It's like, how do you apply the commercial objectives to your bidding signals? But it is just making sure that we've got hierarchies really of conversion goals that align to your commercial value. And if we are telling the platform that, we're at least giving it some signals to use in terms of optimization.
And I think the final one I'll cover quickly is just around commercial objectives, not platform metrics. We've touched on this as we've gone through. Like for us, we've always been a performance-driven agency. So for us, it's all about aligning with those commercial objectives. I think there's so many soft vanity metrics that you can measure within the platforms now that you can optimize towards, etc. But ultimately, we want to make sure we're aligning to those commercial goals, because ultimately that is what's driving the value in the business. I think the new rule of all of this then is that you're not managing campaigns anymore. You're managing sort of an AI system. And I think you've got to get comfortable with that, haven't you, James?
Yeah, I think you're ceding parts of the control that we used to have, but you've got new guardrails and controls that we're using. So setting the right targets is much more important. Ensuring that we're reviewing that in line with those commercial objectives. And less focus needs to be on like, what is my CPC? Am I bidding is it too expensive for one thing? It's more about like governance. Am I appearing for the right sort of term? Is it optimizing in the right direction, or is it like going down a route that's delivering low quality leads or a lower quality style of lead? And sort of working with it. Because AI does give you that expansion. It is great for that, and we are reaching more audiences than we've ever been able to reach before, and that does drive commercial return, or like does drive commercial growth. But you just have to make sure that it's like just check in with it and like redirect it in the right direction every so often.
Agreed. And look, I think on this slide, I just wanted to highlight that exclusively we like to offer something for everybody who joins a masterclass. So for us, we want to offer up a free digital performance audit. This is MX, so MediaWorks Measure of Experience, where we take a number of data points across how your website or your activity is performing, a digital activity is performing, and they're able to benchmark that against your peer set. So there's a range of unique data points that we've got that allow us to produce things like league tables or positioning statements that really allow you to identify sort of where your strengths are across brand, reach, authority, technical, and engagement. So as I say, if you're interested, please do click the link in the chat. If you're listening on catch up, do obviously email into our generic inbox, etc. And we'll be happy to produce one of these for you and walk you through sort of what we're seeing in terms of your own brand's performance. So I guess back to sort of the performance side of it and the updates, I guess the questions then inevitably become sort of what we're going to do about it. And I'm conscious in the last 5 minutes, James, we want to really tell people about what people should be doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the initial one really is about like make sure that you're aligned to what is changing. You know what's like whether review your campaigns basically. Check with if you're talking just about the 17th of August update, like review all of your target CPA campaigns. look at where we're achieving historically versus what your target is, and then ensure that we're set it, like adjust accordingly. But I think we should be doing that more frequently across all platforms, because there are changes, there is new features, stuff that hadn't worked in the past. Like if you tested AI Max like 6 months ago, might be worth testing it again, because all of these things are constantly improving. So just making sure that we're reviewing our activity in line with the changes, and making any adjustments that are sort of necessary.
And recording those baselines, I think, is an important point, is around sort of make sure you do keep a note of those as well, to just understand sort of what it was pre versus what it is post, so you can actually view some of those changes. And just, as I say, another checks and balance opportunity for me. I think step 2, decide deliberately regarding 17th of August changes. So again, like thinking about what your next steps are. Really, it's about lower target on campaigns you want to keep efficient. So making sure you've got that control in place. Change your bid strategy. So again, thinking about where's your bid strategy for each of these areas, and does it actually align to what you're trying to achieve commercially? I think super important. Yeah. I think then you're into accept the shift. So again, expect CPA increases. These things are going to happen. But again, monitor where you're comfortable with that happening versus where you're not. And again, take a very deliberate approach to, are you comfortable with what you're seeing, and how does that align commercially?
Yeah, where I'd be considering it is if the campaign's quite bespoke in terms of the like quite a niche area or like a limited area, like just reset you might be fine to let it like expand in that specific ballpark. But if you're targeting something globally, and it's got a set CPA and you're achieving below that, you might find that you start spending in other markets where there is less efficiency.
Yeah.
And that's where you might want to watch it. So yeah, you do have to look at it, review it in line with what you're doing. Make a change if you need to. The most obvious change is just reset your CPA to whatever you're achieving now.
Yeah.
Like if you don't want to worry about this, just do that.
Yeah. And I guess the other model though is to potentially to increase your budget to test and learn in this area to see what it does actually drive. And again, there's always a benefit to doing that, in sense of, that this is why these things have been generated anyways, to drive more conversions, ultimately drive performance. Like that is what Google's trying to achieve with this. But what I would say is you might have to look at budget allocations and budget sort of increases to counteract some of that. I guess then what we would say as well is this won't be the last update. Like, again, to be honest, James and I could probably come on this sofa every 4 weeks and talk about a new update that we've seen on one of the platforms. But I think the key things here is just keep your ears to the ground. The fact that you're on this masterclass is probably a good sign. The fact that you are sort of aware of what's going on and want to be kept up to date with what is taking place. But what I would say is you can follow it at source. Things like Google Ads Help, Ads Liaison, Google Marketing Live, like they do flag the changes that are coming. I would say put a recurring review on the calendar. So again, to your point on the previous slide, James, around just checking those targets, checking those CPAs on a more regular basis, or checking sort of where we're seeing the performance and what it's doing is never a bad thing. It's never set and forget. Do you know what I mean? Like that's absolutely not what we're advocating here. And I guess the other big one is like watch your data quality over time. Again, aligning what's happening in campaign world versus also what's happening in your commercial world, i.e. are you seeing an increase in performance over here and then also an increase in performance over there? I think that if ultimately, what we're seeing is increased in-platform metrics, but we're not seeing commercial changes, that would be cause for concern and something to definitely look at. So definitely be, keep an eye on those commercial objectives. I guess closing thoughts are really then the future of Google search. We wanted to put on a smattering of some of the other changes that exist that we're probably going to go into over the next few masterclasses. But you can see there's been a raft of changes that we've seen, but more particularly from today's session, 3 key takeaways are the 17th of August deadline for smart bidding is upcoming. Make sure all Google products move in the same way, less manual control, more reliance. So again, audit every AI managed campaign sort of this week, not just budget limited ones. So do a full review of your activity. Do make AI work for you. AI isn't a big scary thing. It just needs guardrails. I think we've used that word so many times, but campaign structures need to be on point, monitoring needs to be on point, proactivity needs to be on point to make automation do its thing and work its magic. And then what I would say is, again, anybody looking for that broader piece around digital performance, then do take us up on the free audit that we offered as part of this, where we'll be able to take you through some of the benchmarks that we're seeing, how you benchmark against your competitors, and be able to give you some really unique insight into sort of what our next suggestions and what next steps for you and food for thought would be. Well, all that's left to say is thank you very much, James. Thanks for that session. Thanks, everybody, for your engagement and participation. And thanks for joining the MediaWorks Masterclass. I look forward to seeing you in a future one. Enjoy the rest of your week. Thank you.
Cheers.